Hey folks, here we are with week 2. This week we're going to focus on logo and name. So a lot of ideas, a lot of neat ideas. Let's get going. Okay, so what's in a name? Choosing a name for a company. I think it's not a whole lot different from choosing a name for a kid or choosing a name for a pet. It needs to be memorable, concise, identifiable, and I think connected back to what it is that you're doing and how you're doing it, the whole brand, the whole image that you're throwing out into the marketplace, all of those things together. People need, when they hear it, they need to lock it away in their head. It needs to be easy to remember, that idea of concise, identifiable to you, and then connected. So those are kind of my 4 points after kind of thinking about this and studying this for a long time. Let's jump and see what some others said. So this is something that I grabbed from Forbes, which I thought was good. So we're including this as well. So what they suggest in this Forbes article about business, avoid hard to spell names. I think we've heard those things maybe on the radio and others. How do you spell that? How exactly would I pull that up if I were looking for a website? So the next one, don't pick a name that could be limiting as your business grows. So if you name it, in relation to your town, and then you want to expand beyond your town, name it something within your state, but want to expand beyond your state, that could be a problem. If you name it, I used to deal business with a car repair place that was first known as the muffler shop. Well, they eventually did more than mufflers, and so they eventually had to change the name to automotive rather than just the muffler shop. Okay, so on the next one, conduct a thorough internet search. So look and see what else is out there. So look, type in different things in a different internet search engines and see what's out there. This is the big one, number 4, and I'm going to show you this in just a little bit. I still think that in this day and age that we're in, that having that .com extension is critical. It's very necessary, especially if this is a for-profit enterprise. So like I said, we'll come back to that in a couple slides. The name that conveys some meaning. Conduct a trademark search. That's where we're going to end today, and I'll write up one of your questions for this week having to do with trademarks. The next is that Secretary of State search. So with that, we're kind of looking to see limited liability companies, LLCs, in the different states to see if it or something similar has already been claimed. Is it catchy? And then get feedback. I think with both of those, you can do some informal research. You can do focus groups, you can do marketing research, you could really just ask your family, but kind of the more information you can get from more wider sources would be the better. Make sure the name sounds good when said aloud. So say it aloud and make sure it can't be construed as saying something else or meaning something else, or that you get tongue-tied when trying to say it. Use resources available for brainstorming names. So I'll show you another little thing here when we're looking for domain names that also give you some options and possibilities. But getting ready for this presentation, there are there are internet sites that are available that will help you choose names, business names. And then lastly, to make sure that you are happy with the name. So that's what the Forbes article said, and I agree with all of that. Let's see another one. And I kind of like this one. This is Vistaprint. So Vistaprint's going to deal with a lot of people starting businesses and wanting things for their businesses. So these are some things that they suggest. So acronyms, and they give in this article, they suggest the BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation Company. Mashups, so like Trip Advisor, where you kind of take two things and then cram them together into one. The inspiration from mythology and literature, and they give the example of Oracle and Mars both in there. Foreign words, way back 2007, 2008, when The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman was a big deal. I worked with students in Vienna talking about those ideas and how the world has become smaller in doing business through the use of information technology. So I actually started a little site. I found out that Rice University was doing something different, but I used a German word, and I'll show you another one as well. Your own name, so Boeing. We were up in Seattle with students and went on a tour of Boeing. Take a look at a map and see if there are things that might inspire you, and they give the example of Amazon. Mix things up. Garmin, a combination of two people's names, Gary and Min. When you partner with a different company, so with that, you might combine the names from two different companies. Nicknames. So in this article, it said that Mercedes was actually a nickname for a family member. The symbol, make it descriptive. That's 7-Eleven, open from 7 in the morning till 11. Latin. So they said Volvo, Acer, Lexus are also things that are derived from the Latin. Abbreviate. Cisco. They said it came from San Francisco. Tweak the spelling. They threw out a letter from Flickr. Tell your story. That Explorer 83. I'll show you this in a bit as well. Talk about what you believe in. Trek bicycles, taking treks. And then pick a word from the dictionary. And in this article, this Vistaprint resource, it says that Twitter is actually something that came about that way as well. Hey, take a look at this. Is a Facebook page, kind of an idea that came to mind a few summers ago, before our move and before I injured my leg and have gotten out of the cycling world for a little bit. We would do our long distance bike rides with my college kids, and we had a lot of supporters. I would do a lot of talks, letting people know what we had done and some of the cool and interesting stories that came about from the rides. And inevitably, after every presentation, I would have people come up and ask about joining us. Can we come too? Is it this just for college kids? And so it kind of struck me that this would be something I could do, which would be really fun for me to do during the summers when I'm not so busy with teaching, that we could offer cycle touring adventures on different trails and things around the country. We have all the gear and the trailer and bikes. We have the know-how with the safety equipment. So it would be relatively easy to do. So what I did, I wanted to find out a name for it. Let's make a page, and then I could start promoting it to other folks and kind of have them follow along, maybe express some interest in doing this. So how do you name it? So kind of these things that we've already gone through, I ran through a bunch of them, and ended up with a German word. So that picture that you see on there is actually the end of our last Vienna trip. It's kind of become a tradition that toward the end of our time in Vienna, we're usually there for about a month, we do a cycling adventure along the Danube or River. So a lot of those kids, all but two of those kids have done long distance bike rides with us. And so, cycling kind of became part of our story and what we did. So with this, again, coming up with the name, that Fahrrad name, it's a German name. It means bicycle. Except for using bicycle, this is a really good option. So, it taps into Vienna and the German language and cycling along the Danube and our long distance cycling adventures into a nice, short, concise word. Now, spelling, this may be one where spelling is hard for folks at the beginning, but by being able to provide links to the website, maybe we can take care of some of that and, publicizing the name and the logo in a lot of different ways. So again, this ties in foreign language. It ties in how you go about selecting a name and making it short and concise and clear and relating it back to what you stand for. Before we leave this page, though, I want you to look at the logo. You'll see it again in a couple of slides, but it's in that circle. So most of the social media sites require a round profile picture. But in order to do that, I found the easiest way to do that is to make it inside of a bigger box, make it inside of a square with the actual image and the words in the middle. And then when the Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or whoever pulls it down, that the image tends to center in that circle. So it took a little playing with to get the size right, but that's what you're looking at there. So again, just kind of wanted to bring this page up as kind of an example of a lot of these ideas that have already been brought up so far in this presentation. Okay, this slide, we're going to talk about the DBA, the Doing Business As license permit. So if you wanted to start a business today, the way things work in the US is it's relatively easy to do if you go in as a sole proprietor and using your own name. Now we're going to get to sole proprietor and different legal forms of business in coming weeks. But today I wanted to bring this up, just again, tying it back to the idea of name. So a lot of cases, if you wanted to start a business using your own name that doesn't involve different licenses or permits or certificates, there are going to be times where you have to have those in order to do business. But if you did something, say lawn maintenance, you could really probably get started on that in the same day using your own name. When you want to use a business name, which is kind of what we're talking about today, the business name is going to require that you register that name. So you can register at the county level, okay, with the doing business as license through the county courthouse, usually, county clerk. State level, which is usually going to be some form of limited liability company, LLC, or you can also do it at the nation level, and that's going to be the patent and trademark office. That's where we're going to end this presentation today. But county, so like I said, if you wanted to start your own business using your name, you would just operate under your name. You would accept payments through your name. You would then do Schedule C on the tax return to report your income and your expenses and figure out what the tax due is under your own name. Now, if you wanted to have a business name, which is kind of what we're talking about today, you would have to get that registered. So what I'm most familiar with is in Texas. And so when I've done this, what I did is went down to the county courthouse and went to the clerk's office. I asked the guards when I walked in, where do I do this? And they pointed me to the office, went in, told the people, said, this is what I want to do. They gave me a form, said this needs to be filled out and notarized. And then there's just kind of a nominal fee, maybe like $20, $18 that you pay, get it notarized, and then you file that. They're going to recommend getting a lawyer to help you out, or they said you can also go and look in the book and see other ones that have already been done. And so that's what I did and got that registered. So with that, I don't want to say it necessarily protects you at a county level, but it just lets people know who that person is who's operating under that business name. So that's the kind of the most basic DBA. If you wanted to start a business using an assumed name, you would want to set up a bank account, business bank account. You may have to go to get a sales tax permit. And so the bank, the county, the state, for the state controller's office for sales tax, they're going to want to see your DBA, that you've registered the name. You take it to the bank, they see it, they will then set up a business bank account with your name, but also the business name, and then to get a sales tax permit. And then again, the many other types of permits and licenses that are going to be required depending on what you do. You may also have to have this for that as well. If you wanted to, again, when we get in a legal form, we'll talk about this, but if you want to give yourself a little more protection, not only as far as liability goes, but also to protect your name from others coming in later and taking it, you can protect yourself at a state level. So by registering with the Secretary of State and setting up an LLC in Texas, I think most of the states are going to have an LLC or something named, something very close to that. The LLC, again, we'll get into this, that'll protect you kind of at that wider level, at the state level. And then if you want to do something bigger and get more protection where you can operate across state borders and not worry about someone else coming in and taking your name, then you can protect yourself by registering for a trademark and getting that protected at a nationwide level. So again, just real important stuff as we're going through this to make sure that you don't do a lot of work and energy only to find out that someone comes in later and is able to snatch it away from you. Okay, domain name. So let's start here. When I'm looking for a name for something, I want to make sure that that .com extension is available. So with domain names, kind of like a business name, short, I think for domain names, the shorter the better. It's more memorable. There's less opportunity for mistakes when people are typing it in. Clear, that when you hear it on the radio, when you hear people talk about it, that it's very clear as to what it is. Whenever you deal with numbers, I think that can bring in the possibility, is it spelled out or is it an actual number? And then those extensions. So .com is still kind of the king. If you had a nonprofit, a .org, the .nets, those were the three big ones when they started, and now we have a lot of different options. So again, I encourage you, and just like that earlier referenced in the Forbes article, said get that .com. So when you're doing searches for names, I think that's critically important. All right, I use GoDaddy. I'm not endorsing it. I don't own it, but I have used GoDaddy, and so I'm most familiar with it. So whenever one of these crazy ideas pops into my head, I jump into GoDaddy, and right up there it says type the domain name you want. I'll type it in, and it'll tell me if the .com is available or taken, and then many different options as well. So I did a search just on TAMUCC to see what was available, and it said TAMUCC.co. I don't even see .com on there. Oh, .com is taken. There it is. TAMUCC.co is available. You can get it for 1 cent for the first year, and then it looks like it's $37.99 after that. .org is available, .net is available, .live is available, .us is available. And if you do this search, it'll give you a lot of different combinations and options. That's kind of one thing I like about GoDaddy. It tells you if it's taken, and then what a lot of different options are and combinations are as well. So that's GoDaddy. And this next one, so Wix. Wix is one that my wife and daughter used, and then actually I had my students use it this past year as well. So Wix, you can register domain names through Wix as well. They've got a great kind of do-it-yourself template kind of service where you can go through and really kind of build professional-looking websites using those templates. Also, I clicked on that drop-down before I did the screenshot to show that there are add-ons. So you can do a store. If you're interested in maybe selling things, you could click and do that add-on to your account and be able to sell, and they would provide merchant services. So online services, a blog, website, other things. So that's Wix. Again, not endorsing it, just kind of familiar with it, and we've had a good experience. And I know that there are lots of other ones out there as well that do similar things. Logo design. So one of the things, if you get on and do some research on logo design, I think kind of the common lesson or thing that they'll say to do is this is one where you maybe don't want to skimp. And so you may be able to do some by yourself and have them look okay, but this may be a case where you want to go get a pro to help you out. So that bottom left one, that Texas Martial Arts Center, that's actually one that I did for my little karate school back in 2009, 2010. Does it look like a karate logo? Not really. Does it look more like the Texas seal? Yes, it does. And so in my mind, I didn't necessarily want, martial arts stuff on there, but I wanted it to be more that the feel of a Texas thing. So with our decorations, with our fonts that we used within the building, really kind of emphasize that Texas theme. So like I said, that is a play on the seal of Texas. The one above it, Team Up, that's also one that I did. And then the other ones are ones that I had some help with. So Team Up was it's taking the team development, leadership development, things that we do basically in my outdoor leadership class, but to offer it to organizations in the community. So we've done a number of team training and development things with a bunch of different groups in different cities. And so that was my logo that I was able to do just using a image editing program. Colors, the font, you see the little black stroke around the letters to make it pop out, to make those white letters pop out. And again, those are square because later when you put them into social media, most of those social media little places to put your profile picture are round. And so to make it work, you have to have a big square one so it'll zoom in on the round part there in the middle. The one right of the Explorer 83, I'm going to show you a website on that one. But this is one, I actually have a graphic designer in my family, and that graphic designer is also in the MBA program here at Texas A&M Corpus Christi. But I had students working on a project. I've already referenced it in the name, but we wanted to help promote Highway 83. It runs from Brownsville all the way up into Canada, up to Swan River, Manitoba, Canada. We rode our bikes up it, and they're just wonderful little marvelous towns all along the route. It actually runs right through Abilene as well. I could see it from my office at my previous school. But when the students were looking for a name, what is it that we want? And so we actually got into GoDaddy and we started typing in different combinations, and we came up with the idea we want to explore 83. Actually, just today I was out driving around Oklahoma City and was driving on the original Route 66, some of the original road. Route 66 is a big tourist road. It runs through a lot of big cities, but it's kind of a travel destination. So the idea with Explore 83 is that we would help promote towns along that highway, kind of the heart of America. This highway exists, 66 doesn't exist in its entirety anymore, but 83 does. And so this is kind of an ongoing project with my students. I'll give them as a class project to update that, to find festivals and things that are going on along that highway, and then to update it and promote it and get people to see that site. But so that's the image, kind of that shield kind of looks like a highway sign. The 83 again kind of looks like the highway sign with the banner. They chose the green and the black, kind of nature, maybe being out there at night and just wide open. That's what the students came up with. The one above it, that's for the bike ride site. And so you can see that background. It's got the cycling, the bicycle tires, and it's got the bicycle with the 3 little lines on the back, and just a nice, consistent, clean, simple and elegant type design. Then over on the top left, this is something that we're probably going to bring about here in the next year or so. It's something to do at night. So my daughter did that. I actually just called her one night and said, hey, it would be great if you would do that for me. And like an hour later, she sent that back and said, how's it look? And it's like, I like it. I like it. So anyways, logo. So professional looking. We've seen homemade signs when you're out driving around your town or small towns where people just made them look very homemade. That then reflects back on maybe the business and what people might expect if they do business. So portray the image, the brand, what your company stands for. They're going to be combinations of words, which I'm going to show you on the next slide, graphics, or a combination. And we're all familiar with those, kind of thinking about corporate logos. The colors and the fonts, again, very important. When you're choosing your text, making sure that your words are going to be able to be read, depending on what your background is. And then you need it adaptable for different uses. So you want it for the website, you want it for your social media, you want it for business cards, maybe you want it for some letterhead, you want it for banner type things, you want it for just all different things. So as you develop these, you just kind of need to think about how it's going to be used and what shape it needs to be, and then make sure it all fits. Also, when you, I don't know how many of you have had exposure to graphic design, but bitmap images and vector-based images, you always want to do things like this using vector-based. So you can make them really small, or you can make them really big, and they stay just as sharp. With bitmaps, JPEGs, you know that if you make things smaller, you make it distorted. If you try to make a JPEG bigger, it can also get kind of grainy and weird looking. The vector images are made to, they're done mathematically. So if something's half the size, then it's just as sharp. If it's twice the size, the edges stay just as sharp. So when you're doing graphic and printing stuff and making stuff for the webs and making t-shirts or all kinds of shirts and different things, you want to make sure that your image and logo is going to look sharp and good and professional and convey your image on all of those different things that you use them for. All right, this, again, I'm real careful when I do these, loading it up to YouTube and then using it for class. I don't want to violate copyright stuff, which is also part of today's lesson as well. So this one, I just did a Google search on corporate logos, and this is what popped up. And so instead of clicking into a specific one, this is just the result from a corporate search. So as you look through this, you see some of those corporate logos that are just words. They're the name of the company. That's it. And so kind of just peek around and you can see those. So sometimes the logo can just be the name of the company. Other ones, if you look around, you'll see some that are just images. There's Target. I'm looking at Target down there on the bottom row. Just that kind of bullseye, Target looking image. So some companies, and really it looks like the one with Target, they have a lot of, I see Texaco down there. There's Mercedes. Looks like Xbox is on there. Those are companies that their logo is just simply an image. And then if you look, you'll see some that are combinations. So it's the name of the company, but it's also an image that goes along as well. That same group of logos down there with Target, right next to it is Nissan. Right below it is Lotus. Right below it is Dell. Right over there next to it is Starbucks. On the other side is Burger King. And there's also Saab and Fiat down there as well. And GE, General Electric, that's the abbreviation, the initials. So really a lot of these things that we've already talked about, you can see them in there. So as the one who is designing these and building a logo to stand for and represent your company, just kind of don't limit yourself to one thing. Just kind of look through this and see what a lot of big successful companies have done and things that we're aware of and see and recognize every day. Colors, you can look at the colors, you can look at the different fonts that they use. Yeah, really interesting stuff. All right, websites and social media. Again, this is another one of those areas where I'm real careful about stuff I load up just for copywriting and stuff. So I'm actually going to use some that we've developed. They may not be the best, but they're definitely ones that I can talk about, and I'm probably not going to sue myself for using these. So websites and social media. I think social media in this day and age is just 100% critical and necessary. So these two things I really kind of see going hand in hand with each other. So again, that idea of professional looking, to take your image, to take your brand and what you stand for, and to be able to project it out into the marketplace. People need to know that they're going to be dealing with professionals, and that image is going to be the first thing a lot of people see. The website, the social media account might be the first thing that they see about you and what you do. You can do it personally. So back in the old days, okay, my days, my first web design book was actually HTML code, and that was just terrible. And then soon thereafter, this was like 1999, Microsoft came out with a program called Front Page. And with Front Page, it was one of those WYSIWYG, what you see is what you get, programs where you could actually design it into what now kind of looks like PowerPoint. You can design it and then be able to save that as HTML and then copy it up. So for a long time, long time, I would do my own websites. Again, not being a graphic design person, but being someone who just kind of has an interest in this and kind of understands what's needed on the backside for the business stuff. So you can do it by yourself. You can do the templates like that Wix and others. And then also you can go hire people. And there are people who are professionals who that's what they do. That's what they specialize in the marketplace and can do things that most normal people, amateurs like me, couldn't do. So website add-ons, like I said, with the shopping cart, the merchant services, the blogs, a lot of different things, you can add those on as well. And then, like I said, on this one, the social media presence. So let me give you some little examples just to maybe get you thinking. Here's the Explore 83. So like I said, we did this one. The students did it through Wix. This was a semester project. So they went out and made some videos. We have social media accounts that go along with this, which integrate back into the website. But there's the logo. You see the logo on the video. You see the logo up on the top left on the About Us. And then they used the different tabs up there to talk about the history of the road, maybe some of the cities, the destinations. They feature the different cities all along the route and different festivals and cool things and points of interest and things for tourists and places to stay and places to eat. All of that is featured on that Destinations tab. The gallery, they made video playlist. So they went out and found videos from the different cities that are along the route and compiled them into playlists on YouTube. And then from that, people could click into a state or a city and be able to watch videos on that. And that 83andMe, I think they were interested in doing a blog on 83 as well. So like I said, website design, that's an example of a template. And in particular, they used Wix for this project. This one, okay, so this is one, like I said, that I did by myself. I found, I was out riding my bike one night and was thinking about domain names. I was having some problems. I don't want to say problems, but I wanted a little more help publicizing what I did through my program. And at that stage, I wasn't getting a lot of help. And so while I was riding my bike one night, I realized, let me do a search. Let me go home. Maybe I can make my own site. And so I got home and I found that leadershipstudies.net was available. .com, I think .org were taken, but .net was available. That's a really good domain name, even though it's got kind of the weird extension .net rather than one of those other two big ones. But to have leadership studies, which is clear and concise and memorable and easy to spell, I grabbed it. And so after I grabbed it, I built my own little website. And so this was to promote my program. And when people came to me and said, hey, what are you doing? You know, what is this thing about? I could refer them to the website, which had all the information, and they could just jump in there and browse and go through videos and link over to the social media and really kind of discover by themselves. Now, if you notice on this one, I don't have a logo. We never came up with a logo. So really, that's just text. And so the kind of the text was my logo. So this one, like I said, I just used Microsoft Front Page. I just used a later edition of Front Page. The server extensions are not active anymore, so I just FTP'd. I just did my design, and then I was able to load them directly up to my host server through GoDaddy to display them for the world. But in there, that's just a bunch of tables It's table with the black background and then have a gray in there and then the blue. And then I'll show you what's a little bit further down that page. The navigation bar up top is just an image, and you click on any of those words up there, it's a hotspot, and it clicks you into the different pages. So this next page, so if you pulled up this website and then you just scroll down a little bit, this is on the bottom of the page. So also kind of a interesting, I'd never done another website like this, but for this worked for me because I wanted to make it visually interesting when people clicked in, rather than just having a navigation button or menu, so they could actually see the pictures. So those pictures are actually hotspot links over to different pages as well. So I've got one of the Facebook page, which is where we did a lot of information, a lot of the daily stuff. And then the study abroad, the bike ride across Texas, Model UN experiential, and extracurricular. And then down at the bottom, I used the images from Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook and said, hey, click on these too. And so you click on any of those and those would go straight to those social media sites as well. And that's what those look like as well. So again, over there on the left, that's the leadership studies. I changed it. It's kind of now my new thing. It's called Red Pill Teaching. And so kind of borrowed that image. Down there in the middle, that is that's the YouTube channel. And so on the YouTube channel, we have all of our videos organized on there so people can click in and see exactly what we did. And then over on the top right, that would be our Instagram page. And so Instagram and Facebook are now part of Meta. And so you can link those two things together. So I found it's usually easier to post on Instagram and it'll post automatically to Facebook. Videos, if you're posting long things, if you want to embed YouTube videos, we know that Instagram doesn't work too well at that. And so usually that's a better place to put it over on Facebook. I've also had people tell me, well, students aren't on Facebook anymore. Well, their parents are. And so when my kids were going through college searches, maybe they weren't looking at the Facebook pages, but mom and dad sure were. So I really think that it's necessary to be on Facebook, maybe for the students, but definitely for the parents and others who are looking. And the nice thing about YouTube is that you can then take that YouTube and you can load it up and share it to other places. So each of those profile pictures on those three, okay, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram, do you see they're round? And so if you used a logo, it would need to fit inside that. So that's just all part of it. You also see the banner images that leadership, the YouTube one down at the bottom. One of the students is 6'7", and to make it fit, he just kind of got the top of his head cut off. But even up there on the Facebook page, that's a banner image. And so instead of just a picture, I had to do a little cropping before Facebook would recognize that it's the right shape and then have to kind of slide it around to make it fit. Also up there on the Instagram page, you see under the description above that middle picture, I have a tiny URL. You know that Instagram doesn't let you post a lot of links. And so that tiny URL is actually a shortened version of the domain address for the YouTube page. And so there are little tricks to make it smaller and not so big, and just lots of numbers and symbols for that link that I was able to use a tiny URL, which is a free service that condenses the name, and then also it's just a forwarding service. So anyways, just some ideas. Website, you can do it by yourself. You can use a template. You can go hire a pro, and those pros could also provide support for you as well, and better know how to integrate it with other services as well. Okay, signage. Okay, what do I mean by that? I mean you may need a big sign if you had a bricks and mortar. If you actually have a physical location, you're probably going to need some signs to let people know that you're there. And so it needs to be consistent with the rest of your imaging, your logo, your text, exterior and interior. And so, you need something maybe on your window. Maybe there's a big place to put your sign outside closer to the street where people driving by would be able to see it. And then the stuff inside to let customers know kind of how to get around, what you stand for, where things are, all of that. Think about consistency, and it kind of needs to relate back to the brand and image. I was fortunate in Abilene to have a really good friend who has a sign making company. And so I could run over and just ask him anytime. And he was just a superstar and would get stuff done really quick and saved all of my files. And so again, I had kind of a pro helping me as I went through the process for my bricks and mortar that I had there in Abilene. So signage, think about that as well, but it all relates back to this idea of logo and name and image. Trademarks. So this will be our last topic for the week. So trademarks, and I mentioned that as protection of your name at a nationwide level. All right, so this website down at the bottom is the USPTO, United States Patent and Trademarks Office.gov. And so trademarks basics, if you can find that link, and I'll provide you the link, but if you go to that website, it'll tell you all kinds of stuff about trademarks and service marks and how to register them and legal protection and cost and process. I did find this next one, on that website, that bonamark.com, had a neat little graphic right here. So the TM, we've seen that before, that's the trademark, and that indicates your desire, okay, your intention to use this name, to use the logo, to use that concept as your own. And so in some countries, just using it will provide that acknowledgement, and other ones it will not. So you can put the TM, that's just kind of your own thing. It's not an official registration. It's just kind of your signal to the world that this is mine. If you want more protection, legal protection, so if someone steps in and starts using it, or maybe you're in a country that doesn't acknowledge even the TM mark, then you would want to register it, and that's with the Patent and Trademark Office. So that's when you see the corporate names and logos that have the R sign next to it. That is a registered trademark. Down at the bottom is a service mark, and I like so if a trademark is for things that you produce and sell. They talk about basically products and things that you make and sell. Services, service mark is used when you sell services and not physical products. So a lot of companies that notes they still use TM even when they do services. You wouldn't want to put a service mark if you are selling products. And then I like that last little sentence. Normally it is used when you're extremely boring and want to make sure that everyone knows that you only sell services. So just kind of for fun, but a service mark. And then someone asked me the other day, well, what about a copyright? Well, a copyright is something that you create. So it could be something written, it could be music. And actually it says on this, which is what the other research has shown, usually when you create it, you don't have to indicate, it's kind of implied. So you can use it along with your name and creation date in order to inform others. Its use is not obligatory. Your creation is copyrighted after you've finished it. And so you can look at that. It's the lifetime plus a certain number of years that may have changed. So anyways, that's kind of this week's topic, kind of a real nuts and bolts stuff that we run into and experience kind of unconsciously every day. But the point of this class is to make it conscious and to make you think about it. So if you are starting a company, if you're helping another start a company, these are just a few of the issues that you must think through. And really with a name and logo and the website and the domain name and all of these and the social media accounts, this shouldn't be the last thing you do. This should be some of the first things that you do. So that's why I stuck it way up in the front of the order for this class. But like I said, the reflections for this week will be to have you in your own area tap in and find out specifically how these things work and would apply to you in the area that you would establish your business. So anyways, that's it. Again, kind of real nuts and bolts. This is very different from other classes that tend to be more theory and ideas. These are real concepts, and these are real things that have to be done. So with that, we'll call it quits on this presentation, and we'll pick up with another one next week. Thanks.